So this is going to be a guide about the item shop, as requested. I will have Simsilu, he's already in VC with me, so he might as well like jump in if he wants to say anything. Yeah, pretty much. So we're going to discuss which items are good, which items are bad, why, and then situational stuff. So first we're going to go over the items that are terrible. We have the obvious trigger scent and lethality. These items are bad because they are conditional, which is not worth it on items. These two are relying on elims, which is a pretty bad condition. It's something you don't really have control over, whereas all of the other items you do, because if you get armor plating, reduces incoming damage, that's it. And some of these bonuses aren't even that great, so add the condition on top of that and it's just a deal breaker. They have split resilience into two items, which are now Unbound and Sentinel. So Sentinel used to be Illuminate. Now Illuminate is base it's base kit on every character. I think it's 40 units, so it's like Illuminate 1.5 or something. Unbound is great. It reduces the hard CCs, which include like stuns, silences, roots, etc. But it doesn't include, like the description says, slows, knockups, and knockbacks. This is one of the most useful items, though it's situational because it depends on the enemy comp. You want to buy this. If you have to buy this, usually you will buy it first or second as an item, and then you want it at least level 2, depending on how hard the CC is in the enemy team. Sentinel is less useful because slows, you can play around them. Knockups and knockbacks, same. Usually these are abilities that you can dodge or play around. And the shield on elimination is bad because, first of all, elimination condition, which is usually bad on items, and then the HP that it gives you is, on level 3, it's only 450, all of that for a bunch of credits. It's a very expensive items for what it provides, so I wouldn't advise it ever. Now we have the most useful item of all, it's armor plating. This, you're gonna be buying this on almost every single character in the game, in almost every single game that you're gonna play. I don't think I have to tell you why it's good, just, you know, it's good. Everybody knows that. Then we have Guardian. I'm not sure, Sims, if you have any takes on Guardian. I think this item is not good, even though they increased the percentage and they removed the fact that it used to not work on shields from loadouts, etc. Now it does. It might be funny. I don't think that's good. What do you think?
Well, certain characters can use it more than others. Specifically, like Torval currently can use it pretty well. There is basically like only Torval, so to speak, that would consistently buy this. And then other times there's other characters that has obviously shielding some form of way, or even multiple ways of shielding that can utilize it, but currently it's only Torval that capitalized on it the hardest.
Arcane Warding, which is one of the new items. It reduces the damage you take from abilities, which is different from in-hand weapons. Abilities, what is counted as an ability, you have to read the descriptions to know that. If we take, for example, Leon, her abilities are counted as in-hand weapon damage. So if you are getting absolutely smoked by a Leon and you want to reduce that, you can buy armor plating, but Arcane Warding is not going to work. A good thing to note is, on characters that want to buy basically only damage reduction items, what you can do is, you're going to find yourself in situations where you have armor plating 2, you have a choice between buying Veteran 2, or buying Veteran 1 and Arcane Warding 1, which happens a lot on second rounds or third rounds, depending on, you know, the state of the game. And the best way to go about it is, if you're taking damage from abilities, even if it's like minor abilities, these still count in the breakpoints that the character you're playing against wants to, well, break. And having this on level 1 and Veteran on level 1 is more efficient with the credits you use, because you reduce more overall damage that you're taking than just buying Veteran 2. Obviously, you get Arcane Warding 1, and then if most of the damage is still in-hand weapons, which it should be, then you're gonna buy Veteran 2 and Veteran 3 eventually. But if you're playing against the Dredge, for example, you know, Arcane Warding might be more useful, etc. Now we have Chronos. Chronos is a very, very good item, but I see a lot of people buying it very randomly. What does that mean? Well, they're either going to buy Chronos 1 and just forget about it and buy something else, or they're going to go all in Chronos 3, which is extremely expensive. What you need to know about Chronos is, usually when your character wants to buy Chronos, you buy it and you are committed to it until you have a level 2. Then you should buy other items, unless, you know, the game drags on for a very long time and it's the last item you have to level up, and, you know, you can max it. But usually if you max Chronos, it's luxury, right? Or like you're in the game and it's going to be 4-0 anyway, you might as well buy Chronos, right? We have the new item called HOARD. I'll have either a section in this video if it's not too long once I edit it out, or we're gonna have a different video about this topic specifically, because there's some misconception about how to use this item to the fullest. I guess I'll say this, I'll cut it and put it at the beginning, but this is supposed to be like first round buy, right? Because some people are gonna be like, oh, I bought HOARD and it does nothing.
Yes.
Yeah, of course,
Yes.
of course.
All of the people that is non-horde abusers are usually characters that just get elevated by having 2 items. They can end up with 3 items, but usually, let's say Androxus is going to have 2 tanky items or 1 tanky item and then Master Riding. And then if you bought Master Riding and, let's say, Armor Plating, you're going to end up with Veteran as the 3rd item. That's your entire build. You don't need more. But people that can abuse HOARD is usually characters that have like an absurd amount of total effective HP pool. So they can kind of like get away with a little bit more than in comparison to somebody like Androxus, because you're gonna notice a very huge difference between an Androxus that has armor plating veteran versus a Mave that just has you know the same items. Let's say you're usually gonna get fisted 1v1, but that's just how that works. You can obviously win, but even with Mave being nerfed, you're still gonna get fisted in just the same item category, so to speak. But let's say if you're decent at the game, you're not gonna just rush on the Mave. You're gonna play it slow and methodical, which then elevates your tankiness, because now Mave can't all in you, and then you suddenly can all in her. But now let's say you remove the possibility of you dying in 2 sets of daggers, right? That being 4 dagger hits in total, because you decided to buy HOARD. That obviously delays your inability or your ability to take the fights that you need throughout the portion of the game, so to speak. Yes, you get a stronger point in mid-game, essentially at the 2nd point fight, but you ruin your first point way too hard to a level where the game can snowball into a 4-0. And usually those characters are logically allowed to get away with it. Mave, Vato, Moji is all characters that have effective HP pool. 7 is the only exception, but 7 now sucks, so you should not pick him. Like, the only reason why you would do HOARD 2 Rush is because you really needed Chronos for you to play, like, funny spam ability, but that doesn't work. So you would instead buy Deft Hands and HOARD, but that's just not worth it, because, again, you don't really have a lot of effective HP pool at that point. You don't really have the luxury of bypassing that rule anymore. You're also not a HOARD abuser currently, but he was. It just can't do it anymore. Sky, well, just don't play Sky. Vora is disgusting. It is really good on Vora, especially if you win the first point fight. It's disgustingly strong on all the characters, in reality, that rushes HOARD 2, because the philosophy is that if you are rushing HOARD 2, you're buying HOARD free if you win. If you lose the round, you have HOARD 2. That's just going to be HOARD 2 for the entirety of the game. You're not going to sit on HOARD free. You can max it, like, I won't stop you, but it's not the best way to optimize it, so to speak. Tony is safe. It also has a fair bit of tankiness and effective HP. Brock doesn't really need Chronos 1, and Ceres is like the same idea. Like, if you do the Chronos spam into your I forgot her F ability name, but you just go into your invulnerability constantly, it's better for you to get Chronos 2, but you don't really have a need for Chronos 1. It doesn't do anything. You don't get to your cooldowns faster that you need on the spot. It doesn't really elevate you in any form of way, so you may as well just get credits that will eventually allow you to get, like, let's say 2-3 more items in the 7-minute game. If we have an 8-minute game, so you're probably gonna have 3 items maxed out. Unironically, sometimes. It's just, it depends on when you get HOARD free, and if you do get HOARD free. Support kind of goes by a different philosophy in that way, where you can kind of just buy HOARD free and say, I can blame a Chronos 2. I wouldn't recommend it. I would just get Chronos 2 if I was you.
By the way, when you say 3 items maxed out, do you count HOARD in it or not?
Yeah. HOARD specific just implies that some characters can buy it some games. Next, every game is not going to buy it. Same thing with Honor and Fernando, and the only reason why is because, let's say, if you're playing against Ruckus and Khan as a Fernando, you don't really have the time for HOARD. You probably need like Morale Boost or Master Riding, Nimble, Reju, Veteran, and so on. Like items that will help you in that situation, because they're kind of just gonna run it in, they're gonna send it in the back line, and you're just gonna sit there on the point and you start hoarding for no reason, and you're just gonna lose 4-0. Yeah, that hoard is not helping at all then at that point. But these characters basically buys hoard when they see, well, you might have figured it out. One of these characters on the opposite side. Oh, you have a Nara, I pick next. Well, I guess I go hoard. Oh, they have double support. Also get hoard. But if you're playing against triple DPS or double support with double DPS, one tank, that's going to be faster than it being slower. And usually hoard on these characters are not valuable because some games are just going to be so fast. Either you're shit stomping them or you're getting shit stomped yourself. That hoard is not going to do much at all. And everybody else that is just hoard plus something is just characters that are buying hoard no matter what, and then it buys with the item description that they have. Utility in this case refers for Terminus can buy Nimble with Hoard. Usually you'd buy Nimble separate and you wouldn't buy Hoard and Nimble, but Terminus only really need 3 items, that all being really cheap as well. CCs being obnoxious for Terminus. Healing sometimes is really valuable, so usually you get Rejuve as a form of just cucking the other dude on the point. You have a really easy way of getting out of Cauterize. So that's 2 items. Super cheap as well. And then on top of that, if you need CC reduction, you get Unbound. If you don't need it, you could probably get Master Writing or something like that. You don't need DR. You have so much inbuilt DR. It's absurd. You don't need more tankiness in that way. You just need your cheap items so you don't cry. Because usually you get countered by CC, or you get countered because you don't have the fast resets from the healing, or you get countered by the fact that you're too slow in some form of way, that being for either Nimble or Master Writing. Pip and Emona, they buy usually Hoard Defense. And Hoard Utility Pip is, as you can figure, because we have DPS Pip in specific, is usually going to be support Pip. So let's say if you play Combat Medic, you should be buying Hoard and then Deft Hands. But you're not going Hoard 2 and then Deft Hands. You're buying Hoard 1, Deft Hands 1, and then if you win, you can try to rush for Hoard 3, but usually you're going to sit on Hoard 2 as a Pip, but that's fine. But if you can get Hoard 3, that's also fine. You still kind of follow the same logic. If you win the first point fight, you usually have the credits, but sometimes you don't, and that's just life. You have to just live by it. And if you win the first point fight as well, the best way that you actually should play a game is, as soon as you win the first point fight, kill yourself. Jump off a bridge.
Jump off the map.
The faster you get your Hoard, the better.
If it takes too long to jump off the map, you can just send it in the backline and see how far you can go. But yeah, it's it's better to get your Hoard 3 as fast as possible so you can get your bonus credits earlier. And then we have Io and Willow that sit on the top.
Tanky items.
Yeah, so armor plating or anything else if you actually need anything else. But usually these characters will go Hoard and then like 2 tanky items, maybe 3, depends. Nimble is a nice, accessory item. Like, how do you say it again? It's quality of life on most characters, except Nyx, Terminus, and maybe Fernando?
Nimble usually helps with characters that are very slow and doesn't have a lot of mobility options. Obviously, that was being mentioned, Terminus, Fernando, and Nara, they usually are very slow. But even fast characters like Lex can use it. You usually overcap movement speed because of your loadout, so you don't need it. But there is still an exception to the rule that Nimble is such a cheap item, so some characters may as well just get it, because 14% movement speed is like the difference between making around the corner or not, or like chasing somebody to their side of the map and so on. There's so many different conditions you can fulfill that allows Nimble to either elevate certain scenarios or help you net a kill or help you escape from dying. And then obviously you have Sin that utilizes Nimble like there's nothing tomorrow. All of his abilities kind of like relies on his ability to move around and maneuver fast enough. And usually it's like you have the counter movement speed, and that's it. And then Nimble allows you to have even more movement speed, especially when you use your slow ass Smolder, aka your Q.
Next we have Master Writing. Master Writing is one of the best items in the game for reasons that you might not know. Most people are confused whenever I talk about item shops and they see me or a lot of other high elo players by macerating. So the value in macerating lies in coming back faster from spawn once you died, or getting to places faster than other people at the beginning of the round. The advantage in that, especially in point tanks, for just getting to places first is really crucial, because you can basically deny enemy space and start the round with already an advantage when before it would be a neutral. Same thing with a lot of off-tanks and flankers. Some flankers will play in a way where you are essentially a trade bot. So we can take Maeve as an example, even though she kind of sucks right now. But that's like the best example of this. She is basically a trade bot. You're gonna go all in on somebody, kill them. Usually you expect to die afterwards. If you don't, you know, good on you. Usually you're gonna die afterwards, and you can create a perpetual advantage if you come back faster, kill somebody, come back faster, kill somebody, etc. And if they don't, by macerating, you're essentially, most of the time in team fights, it's gonna be 5v4, essentially, right? If you have macerating, by the way, you should not buy level 3 unless, you know, you're overcapped on items for some reason. It's usually useful enough on level 2, over 3 is like overkill. And it's pretty useful on characters like snipers, again, taking positions early. Aside from what I already said, you can use macerating basically on big maps where it's pretty much mandatory, otherwise you're never gonna get a retake, such as Fish Market, Ice Mines, Timber Mill, Ascension Peak, Waters Gate, Frozen Guard, etc. If you find yourself dying a lot, in general, you might consider macerating to be in the fights more often. If you're dying a lot, you know, normally it's just you're doing something wrong, but you can like put duct tape on it basically and just buy macerating and be like, okay, I can be here, you know, and make up for my earlier fuck-ups. And as far as breaking timers,
like the way I would define it and explain it is that, like, let's say if your tank meets each other in 6 seconds into the beginning of a round, right? The round just started, you run out of the spawn, and both tanks meet each other now in the middle of the point. If you get macerating, right, you can then make the assumption that the tank with macerating and the dude without macerating will have a 2-second difference. Obviously, I'm not saying that you're going to get to the point in 0 seconds, but the idea conceptually is that most rounds in Paladins, it will probably take you around like 8 seconds for you to get to the point. And every point of macerating essentially escalate that into like 1.5 seconds. You usually run that up to 2 seconds. So the more common formula that you go by to have it very simple for most people is that everything escalates or something happens within a frame of 10 seconds. So if every point of macerating reduces your timing to get to that, you know, it's like you're there at 10, they're there at 8, but if you get macerating 2, right, well, suddenly you're there at 6 seconds and they're there at 8 seconds. So you have 2 seconds to do something before they're even fucking remotely close to you, right? Ideally, so to speak, in a fundamental way, it's not the same as it's applied in the game. But if you think about it in a perspective of, let's say we're on Serpent Beach and I have macerating free and none of you guys have macerating on your side of your squad, I'm probably going to be on your side of the high ground every single time before you're getting out of Torch, aka Fire, which is usually the high ground area that you're running out from to get to, well, the high ground of Serpent Beach, where the waterfall is. I don't have to really elaborate on why it's so strong to have somebody like an off-tank, let's say a Khan, Ash, Asan, Ruckus, etc. Even the main tank, Fernando, Inara, Terminus. There's so many scenarios where having a tank in that position before anybody else will naturally lead into you having cooldown advantage. And if you know anything about playing MOBAs, if you know anything about playing hero shooters, if you know anything about playing anything remotely competitive, the more utility you have, aka the more cooldowns you have, the more opportunities you have, the more chances you have of winning the game. Breaking speed points in elevating yourself to positions where you can actually do something before they can act usually nets you a cooldown or two, and that leads to advantages. And when you get an advantage, well, it can start being a snowball, and so on and so on. And basically, no other item in the game makes that happen.
Morale Boost is a pretty strong item. It's not used by everybody, but some characters heavily abuse this, say Khan, say Drogos, and some characters can use it in certain situations when they need higher uptime on their ultimates, say Fernando, for example. I'm not going to give every single example, but this allows you to a degree to change the pace of the game because you get your ult faster and you can, quote-unquote, sometimes break some timers. Kind of depends on how fast the character gets his ultimate and how huge of an impact it has. Also, a lot of supports buy this item nowadays because most supports have pretty overtuned ultimates. If we look at Ying, if we look at Lilith, Grover, etc. This item is all in all pretty useful, but I don't want to see like any emojis buying fucking morale boost or Terminus buying morale boost, right? It really depends on the character. We have Meditation, which is an item I think you should never buy because when you're healing out of combat, you are safe. And when you are safe, you don't need to heal faster. It's already like incredibly fast. Unless you're playing Yaggorath or something. If you are relying on healing out of combat a lot in the game, well, you know, you just play around it. You don't buy Meditation to make it faster. You'd rather have damage reduction items in that case if the problem is that you're taking too much damage. So Life Rip, it's a character-specific item. Most controller picks can use it, but most characters, if you buy Life Rip on most characters, you're probably trolling. Let's say that straight up. Rejuvenate. Rejuvenate is on most characters, yes, even DPSs. I would say almost mandatory if you're playing with a Lilith. If you're not, it's a good item to have, but it's not mandatory. Most tanks will probably end up buying it somewhat during the game.
Think about it as a mid-game option.
Most DPS will not buy it because they need other shit to survive or they need other kinds of utility, and it might be like, you know, a last item buy maybe. Veteran is basically a must buy with armor plating. Some characters don't have the space for it, some characters do, but it's basically a must buy. It's more health, it doesn't reduce incoming damage, it's more a bigger health pool, which is not exactly the same thing, but in practice it's pretty much the same thing as reducing incoming damage. Bloodbath is really good on supports if you're playing a support Overwatch. If you're playing a support character, Bloodbath, if you're playing a support character, you're gonna like it because you're usually gonna start with Chronos / morale boost / HOARD. Bloodbath is basically your third or last item, depending on what you're playing. And it basically allows your teammates to heal off of elims. And you can heal yourself off of your teammates' elims. And you get a lot of elims because once you heal somebody, it counts as if you have an assist. Basically, you can force additional healing without having to do anything yourself. So Bulldozer, very specific. Sometimes you're gonna play against an Imani and you might want to buy it. You might not want to buy it because the dragon can be shut down pretty easily. It kind of depends on the game state, right? If you're playing against a Beric that for some reason has a ton of HP into his turrets and it's really impacting the game, maybe you're gonna buy it. If you're playing, I don't know, Fernando or some shit. It really depends. So I can't give like straight advice on this item, but understand that 90% of the time, you're not gonna buy this.
99.
Yeah. Deft Hands. It's a very shit item on most characters. Some characters absolutely need it. Some characters can use it. So examples of characters who absolutely need it are Betty, Dredge, if you're playing Scuttle, which, I mean, you should be playing Hurl, but, you know, if you want to be funny, you could play Scuttle. We have Omen, who wants Deft Hands, definitely. And we have Maldamba, who can use Deft Hands, but he doesn't need it.
Deft Hands is good on characters that actually use the reload function a lot, because there's some characters that kills within that time, and there's some characters that don't. Think about, like, something like Combat Medic. Like, Combat Medic Pip obviously wants to buy Deft Hands. Madamba, when he's getting a lot of people on him, even when you're playing support, would utilize Deft Hands because reloading faster to toss a snake will actually save your ass in a lot of cases. I don't have to be the one to explain to you why Omen needs it, even though he's ass right now. But characters like Ruckus don't need it. Like, why the hell would you need it? You don't need it. Like, there's nothing in your kit that elevates yourself in any sense. You don't have a function that behaves in a funny way when you reload. You know, when you get a Dredge, Madamba, they have something when you reload. Pip is only necessary because you're, you know, healing primarily through your autos, so you have to reload faster, so you make sure that you don't, you know, sit on downtime too long, because essentially your healing now is a form of a cooldown. Bonking doesn't need it. Betty La Bomba needs it because you're spamming and your reload is stinky bad. Buck, you don't need it because you have actually a good ammo card.
A lot of people think they need Deft Hands on Buck. Yes, he doesn't have a very good reload, as in it doesn't feel good, but it's absolutely unnecessary to buy Deft Hands because you have downtime with Buck. You're not like reloading every fucking 5 seconds, right?
You also kill within a magazine very easily.
I see a lot of people buying it on Strix too. Yes, he has a long reload, but It's not like it impacts you in a very negative way, unless you're wasting like every single one of your bullets on trees or something, then I mean that's on your aim, right? Lastly, we have Wrecker. This one is a situational item again, but it's a good one actually. You basically see a lot of shields. Are they annoying? You might want to buy Wrecker. Do you see a Barrack? Even if the second off tank doesn't use a shield, you might want to buy Wrecker, because Barrack has a lot of shield.
Barrack's life hinges on his ability to stay alive through his shields. If you take that away from him, he becomes very sad.